So I'm going to be talking about the native languages of the Americas. I'll be discussing the first half of the chapter in the textbook. So to start talking about this, we talk about diversity, and as you can see in the bottom right corner of the screen is a map of North America, and you could see how diverse all the languages that are spoken here are. So there are over 1,000 languages spoken in the Americas. 203 of those are alone in the United States, which is shown in the bottom right, or show the language families. The high degree of linguistic diversity is due to the migrants from Asia, which are believed to have come around 15,000 years ago. In the United States, there are all these languages in one area, but there's so little contact and influence on one another. So all the languages are very different. Due to the high degree of diversity, there is little consensus as to how they should be classified. So we discuss them in regions. We are going to talk about North America, South America, and Mesoamerica, but I'm only going to be talking about North America. So in regards to language endangerment, there are over 600 endangered languages in all three regions. Mesoamerica is the least affected, but still 40% of their languages are listed as some sort of endangerment. 2/3 of those are only seen as in trouble as opposed to dying, which isn't as bad. And compared to South America and North America, in South America, 2/3 of the indigenous languages are endangered and more than half of them are dying. North America is affected the most by this. 93% of these languages are listed as endangered and 2/3 of them are seen as dying. So the chapter talks about the Longfellow poem written in 1855 by Henry Longfellow. He published the poem, which was based on the legends and ethnography of the Native American people. And with these tribes, he mentions 12 tribes, which were parts of the following 6 language families that I'm going to be talking about. And it's a good way to talk about the different language families because there are only 4 others that I'm going to discuss that weren't written in the poem. So these are the 6 language families: Algonquian, Muskegon, Uto-Aztecan, Sioux, Caddoan, and Iroquoian. So for the Algonquian, those are spoken in Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Michigan, Iowa, Minnesota, North and South Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, and Canada. These languages have over 40 languages that are divided into 3 groups. So those 3 groups are Plains, which in examples of Plains are Blackfoot and Cheyenne, Central, which includes Cree, Ojibwe, and Shawnee, and Eastern, which includes Delaware and Massachusetts. But something to talk about is that Eastern group is the only one that constitutes as a true language family out of those 3 groups that the languages are divided into. And then the Muskegon family, the one that Longfellow mentions, is Choctaw. There are over 10,400 speakers, mostly in the Gulf Coast of Mexico, but that is gradually decreasing, like much of the other languages. The Uto-Aztecan family, the ones mentioned, are Comanche and Shoshone. That's a relatively large family. They have over 60 languages spoken, and that's mostly in the south of the United States and Mexico. And then for the Sioux family, he mentions Omana, Mandan, and Dakota. That's spoken in the Midwestern and Central United States. The Caddoan languages, he mentions Pawnee. That is a very small amount of languages and speakers. There's only 4 surviving languages, so when you compare them to the other one, it's very small. And then the Iroquoian language family mentions Mohawk and Huron. I'm going to discuss that more later. So the rest of the language families that are not mentioned in the poem are Athabascan, which is Navajo, Salishan, Wakashan, and Penutian, and those are examples of languages spoken. So California is one of the most diverse states in North America. If you can see in the top right, the map, you could see how many different languages are spoken. and 80 to 90 languages are thought to be spoken just in California alone, but the part that's impressive is the diversity at the family level. Little is known about the present state of many Native American languages, and obviously less about their past. There's not much information that has been researched on it. Many of the languages in California are extinct or endangered. The list of endangered languages lists all the languages in North America, California, and all the languages of Northern California as either severely endangered or critically endangered. Many belong to families found only in California, but a few fit into larger families. And something interesting about the linguistic diversity here is the sound inventories of 3 languages spoken in Northwestern California, Hupa, Karuk, and Yurok. They all belong to different language families. They're all in the same region, and they all have very different consonant inventories, grammatical peculiarities, and other concepts grammatically. So now I'm going to talk about the Iroquoian language family. The picture on the bottom right, you can see where it's spoken. So that's mostly in the Great Lakes area and parts of Canada. Those are some other languages other than Mohawk and Huron that were mentioned in the Longfellow poem. The languages are spoken in very geographic discontinuous areas, and most of the Iroquoian languages are endangered. So I'm going to be talking about the Mohawk language. It's part of the Iroquoian language family. There are 3,500 speakers, and that is in the Great Lakes areas of New York and parts of Canada, Quebec, and Ontario. And this language particularly is not endangered, although many Native American languages are and many of the Iroquoian languages are. And in regards to the word order typology, they use pragmatic-based word order, which means that the most important information is referenced first. So it's not like subject, verb, object, subject, object, verb, like many other languages. So a big aspect of it is the polysynthetic morphology, which means that words contain many affixes that encode various grammatical concepts. So that includes noun incorporation and multiple argument agreement. So noun incorporation is when the noun root becomes part of the verb, and multiple argument agreement is an agreement with the subject, object, and if the indirect object is present, that too. Those two go hand in hand. And then this video shows the grammatical concepts that were talked about and examples of speaking it. So for an example and a little activity, so these are 2 examples, and the one on the left has the prefix shako and the one on the right has the prefix ra. So shako encodes an agreement simultaneously with the third person subject and object, and the prefix ra encodes an agreement with the third person subject. So if you think about going back to the multiple argument agreement and noun incorporation, which this language has, it needs to agree with the subject and the object, which the one on the left does, so that one's right. This is an example of some domestic animals in Mohawk, just like a little picture with the words, so you could see how different the words are when translated into English. So another activity, guess the amount of English words in one Mohawk word. So we know that there can be many English words incorporated into one. So this one means get dressed. The second one is fix your hair. The third is goalie. And the fourth is astronaut. So the last one you'd expect to be a long English sentence, but it's just astronaut. And then some fun facts about Mohawk. So the closest thing that English has to Mohawk style is compounds where the object is incorporated at the same time as the suffix. So we would say truck driver or grocery shopping, instead of to truck drive or to grocery shop. So the term Mohawk actually means man-eaters, which was given to them by their Algonquian enemies. One word in Mohawk can translate to an entire sentence in English. Another fun fact is that they don't have labial sounds, which are sounds that include the lips. So they're missing all of those words, and not missing, but they don't have those letters in their alphabet. And then to hear the language is a video here. And those are the sources I use.